do you think we should do?
You do.
James, your video is still frozen. You want to turn it off and maybe turn it back on?
I like the frozen Sly look, though. That was fantastic.
All right. As usual, everybody, let us know if the audio's all jacked up.
Tell me when to start the timer.
You'll know.
Okay.
What are we doing?
This totally beats
Waiting for
our
your
usual
video to
intro.
come back.
Is it seriously now back up?
Yeah. James, leave the call and come back in.
Yeah, try that.
Ah. These people. So, while he's gone, you guys agree we're voting him out, right? Like, this is his last...
Yeah, I mean, he probably hears us right now. Let's just talk about it.
I'm so sick of
I mean, his voice, too. It's so frustrating.
And he's old, guys. He's old.
I know. I mean, he's like 30 years older. Oh, hey, James. And he left again.
And he's back. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Casual Shenanigans Gaming, a podcast all about everything PC gaming related. I'm one of your hosts, Germ Gaming, and boy, howdy, do we have a show for you guys tonight.
Yeah.
Woo! We are a podcast all about everything PC gaming related, and no night are we more PC gaming related than this night. Dave, why is this night different from all other nights?
Oh, Jeremiah, let me tell you, this is the night of the potato masher.
Unlike the last three podcasts where the potato masher has been here, but it's mostly been here physically rather than in spirit, if that makes any sense at all.
It's been consuming your life. Tonight, it consumes all of us.
Tonight, everyone gets spuds. Even if you're from Latvia, you get potato.
They only want potato.
What does that mean?
All right, anyway, welcome to the podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Germ Gaming. Tonight, I am joined by Joel.
What's up, people?
I still don't, every week, right before I say your name, I'm like, what's his catchphrase? He doesn't have one.
Yeah.
Wild card.
It's different.
Oh, wild card. Yes,
Joel,
that's perfect.
Wild card.
Joel,
Am I wrong, Joel?
the wild card. Dave, the not so evil, Evil Viking 13.
Rebranding.
And Papa James. Nope, that one didn't stick. All right. We'll try a different one next week. What's your glasses, James? They look like you just look so fatherly. You're just sitting there looking down.
Like, did you just scold one of your kids?
Jeremiah would put you over my knee, but I would need a few more knees to get you.
Come on, James. I'm team fat. I'm going to snap your knee like a
I
twig.
could put you over the back of a couch, maybe. Or Buick.
Over the whole
Actually, no, you're probably going to laugh. Most couches come up to mid-thigh on me, so... Chairs don't work either. You're going to need to bend me over like a pickup truck, the side of a pickup truck bed. Anyway, we can
You're
experiment.
going to need to bend me over a pickup truck.
We can experiment
That's
with that
your
later.
slogan.
All right, so we'll try a different catchphrase for James next week. That didn't work, but we do have one for Joel now. Sweet. Okay, so tonight we begin the podcast like we always do, talking about the potato masher. We're just going to jump straight into it. So we've been teasing this for months. This is the first major project. Joel, you just looked and went... just look up in your room like, oh, they're coming. And then he goes, all right, I say we wait to see if Joel gets murdered. All right, he's back.
What was that?
You good, Joel?
I was just turning up the ceiling fan. I was like, I'm getting a little bit chilly.
You
I was
just
like,
looked up like, they're coming, and then hopped up from your seat.
What is that? The fan!
So we all paused just to see, like, if you were going to get killed, it's good for them views. So this is our first major Patreon project. Thank you to everyone who supports us on Patreon. We greatly appreciate you guys. And this is one of our first big projects, and I don't know what the projects after this are going to be because we didn't start Patreon with the idea of just having big projects. But this one went really well, so we'll see how it goes. But the potato masher... You can all thank Joel for this because Joel, defending consoles like he always does, challenged us, I guess, in mid-November that he didn't think we could build a PC for about the price of a PlayStation 4 that could play games as well as a PlayStation 4 for as long as a PlayStation 4. Because, of course, even if you build a computer that plays games now, new hardware comes out all the time. New games come out all the time. System requirements get more and more steep, but the PlayStation 4 is going to stay the same for the next probably 5 or 6 more years before the PlayStation 5 or whatever comes after it.
Pretty much.
Yeah, which would probably be, I'd say, at least 6 to 8 years.
No, I don't. The PS4 came out or PS3 came out in 2006, right? Late 2006, I believe.
Yeah, but the only thing is, it's a massively different world now. I mean,
No, it is. But I'm saying
you
it
get
came out in
devices
late
and phones.
2006, and then the PS4 came out in late 2013. So 7 years is a pretty decent bet. So maybe 6
Yeah.
years from now, we could be expecting to see the next generation of consoles, maybe. So our idea,
Except Nintendo, they'll
well,
come out
yeah,
with the
yeah,
last
they're gonna
generation
come
of
out with-
consoles.
with
We
the,
got a big
when they come
announcement,
out.
guys.
they're gonna come out with
Sell the hats.
they're gonna come out with the Wii Me in 3 more years. It's gonna be 1.5 HD, and it's gonna require all new consoles. But you can use your Wii and GameCube controllers with it still, and no one's gonna understand what it is. And then they'll release their same Nintendo games as usual and sell 10 billion copies.
Basically.
But yeah, so the idea of this was we would build a computer. We settled on $350 because in mid-November, that was about what used PS4s were going for. And as the internet has reminded me a lot this week, PS4s have dropped in price a little bit. You can usually find them new for about that much now, and used with all the accessories, you can find them for like $300 if you get lucky, but about $325 pretty consistently. But in mid-November, they were going for about $350. So here's the deal. We started making a price list, and our only restrictions were we decided we didn't need to include a screen because, you know, your PlayStation 4 doesn't come with a screen. And but we did need things like a controller, so a mouse and keyboard for a PC. We could have just bought an Xbox controller, but that would make things like installing Windows kind of difficult. And you would need to do that. So we needed a keyboard and a mouse. We needed to be able to connect to the internet. We needed to be able to record games. We needed to be able to do everything you need to do to play games. We didn't include the price of a Windows license, and this has been one of the most controversial things about this build. So I will explain our reasoning again. We did not include the price of Windows in the price of this build because Sony, they don't make their money actually off selling the PlayStation. They make a little bit of profit off each PlayStation 4 now, but that's because they're actually selling them for a little bit. Like they put slower hardware in them this console generation so they could actually not lose money for like 3 straight years. Because on the PlayStation 3, they were losing money for years.
Yeah.
But on the consoles, but they make money on software sales because every game that's sold for the PlayStation 4, Sony gets a little bit of a cut. So that's where their profit margin comes in. And that's why you don't see many cheap gaming PCs brand new, because there's no margin there. It does not help Dell out at all to take $380 of parts and sell it for $400 assembled. There's no margin, and they don't make any money when you buy games on Steam or anywhere else. So that's why that section of the market isn't really serviced, because you need to charge like $800 to $1,500 to really be able to have any sort of profit margin on the parts. So Sony, they have to include an operating system on their console. It's a closed system. They make profit off every game sold. They don't make any profit off of the operating system per se. So we didn't include the price of the operating system. Also because Linux is becoming more and more supported. SteamOS will be coming out soon. And if you're building on a budget, this was our main reason. If you're building on a budget, hopefully you're not just trying to add everything to your shopping cart and check out right now. Hopefully you're okay looking around for deals for a couple weeks. And hopefully if you're on a budget, we're assuming you're someone like a student or someone, you know, you don't have thousands of dollars in disposable income to spend.
I mean, assuming all that, if you're looking for the cheapest way, you could probably find a copy from someone who has an older copy or doesn't want to use Windows 7 or whatever they may be. So you can probably do that. So
they can
and we're also trying to make the system more in general, not exactly to everything. Exact.
Yeah, so you can find a Windows key for probably $20 if you look around for a little bit. A legitimate copy. We, unlike a lot of people online commenting on this video, we do not endorse you pirating Windows, but you can find legitimate cheap copies. But we left off the price of that because that's really up to you, the user. And
you just ask anyone who has a Windows 8 disc; they'll probably give it to you for free.
well, the serial key is what's worth money.
Maybe Joel endorses.
So yeah, I hate to give such a long disclaimer and like slow the momentum down, but
Did you guys already say the L word?
The L word.
Linux.
Oh, yes. Well, we mentioned it as a Linux and the Steam OS, which is based off of Linux. They're becoming more and more viable. Personally, I wouldn't pick Linux for my primary gaming PC yet, but get back to me in like 4 years, 3-4 years. The way things are going, I could see Linux becoming more and more popular, and it might be just something.
I heard that like Left 4 Dead like runs at like an insane.
Oh, it's awesome.
Anything because it's more bare bones.
Well, and Valve can devote as much time as they want to optimizing it to run on a new operating system because they don't.
Most games run worse.
A lot of games do run worse because, believe it or not, most game developers don't feel like spending a lot of resources to port stuff over to Linux. It's a small market share. So yeah, I don't want to give such a big disclaimer and pull down the momentum of the podcast here, but I felt like I need to do that up front because that was pretty controversial, and I wanted everyone to really understand what our position was on that. We were not saying, no, you won't need a copy of Windows. You will need a copy of something, but it's up to you, and obviously the price of whatever you choose will affect the overall budget. So we ended up spending $356, and Dave, you want to go through some of the parts we got?
I don't have the list, but I could get it up real quick.
Well, I just want to drink. So if you could, just say something.
I will let you
Take your time.
Get your booze. I'll pull up your own video here.
My throat is thirsty.
We only had to do a little bit of part shopping. Honestly, a lot of people who were calling us out and saying like, "Oh, you can't buy this build today." It's like, well, yeah, you can't sit down at the computer and fill your Amazon shopping cart and check out these parts today. But we spent like a few weeks looking at parts, so we knew what we were looking for, and then just a couple of weeks ordering the parts. It was not that big of a deal. I spend more time on slick deals ordering like dumb, super cheap stuff that I'm probably never going to use that was like $2 shipped. So,
and that was the second big bit of controversy. And we're not going to spend this whole time talking about this is what everyone said we sucked at, and here's why we don't. No, this is our forum. We can talk about whatever we want. So it's not like a debate or something.
Yeah,
it will be.
Oh, it will be. No, but
we never said that this build was going to be something that every new PC builder should like aim for. Absolutely not.
But
like,
this is totally doable. This build is so doable.
I was talking with Pico actually the other day, and he said what we kind of accomplished and what we were trying to do is pretty unique. He said, but something that might actually be a cool idea down the road, maybe not even to do it, almost even a better test is if what can you get available now, but like day one. You know what I mean? Like what you can actually do in like today. Like you have to buy all the parts today. What would that general price be?
I'll get to that actually, because you might be surprised. We'll cover that after we cover this price list. So. Now, we did spend a couple weeks looking, but for anyone who's like, oh, well, I don't have time to do that, it wasn't me and Dave like furiously Googling all day long. Mostly we did a lot of, hey, I wonder if we could try this, or we could try this, or we could try this. But generally, the type of parts we were looking for, we knew that right off the bat. We only had a couple debates of like, well, are we going to go with this much memory, or do we want to put more into the graphics card, or more into something else?
I have to put a dig here. Okay,
dig.
So it's a used versus used build, right?
Right.
So the PS4 is so cheap because it is outdated parts in a new machine. So
not outdated so much as it's not top of the market parts. They are brand new parts, but they are, if they were released on the PC, they would have been top of the line like 4 or 5 years ago, and they would have been mid-market 2 years ago when they started finalizing the parts for the PS4.
So for our build, all we really had to do was just go behind the curve a little bit less and buy parts that are still good and of course a little bit more powerful than the PS4s, but still on what would be considered a dead platform where you're not going to have upgrades for this motherboard 2 years from now. Or
that's true of everyone who owns an Intel chipset. You'll never put another processor into that.
Yeah,
Intel pumps and dumps it every 18 months. They don't care about you. Get over it. If you want longevity, buy AMD. The AM3 platform and AM3 Plus has been going for like 6 years. FX Master Race. It's slow, but I like it.
That is just Intel's thing. I built my computer last March, and when I bought the motherboard, it was actually hard to find one because that platform had already been retired when I bought the motherboard.
Right.
It was officially old. But yeah, so we just had to aim a little bit, not quite far down the curve for our parts list.
Okay, so we ended up going with an i5 750. That's an Intel quad-core, stock speed, 2.66 gigahertz. No hyper-threading, no turbo, nothing. Just straight. And this is not a K part. You'll notice Intel puts K in all their overclockable parts now. This was a generation before that. So you can overclock this as much as you want. It's not a crazy good overclocker, but we were able to overclock it from 2.66 to 3.7 gigahertz. I ended up backing down to 3.5 gigahertz just because there wasn't much of a performance difference, and it did drop the temperatures just enough that I felt pretty good about it. This chip, though, could overclock quite a bit farther if I could bump the voltage. I actually was able to lower the voltage from stock and run the clock speed up like almost 1 gigahertz.
That's pretty wild.
I couldn't go farther than that because we were stuck with an Arctic Silver 11 GT fan we got on a sale, brand new. It's not an amazing fan. It's better than the stock fan, but as far as fans go, it's just a little bit better.
It's funny because it looks really similar to the stock fan. Like just looking at it, it really does.
Yeah.
Design-wise, it's not amazing.
I'm hearing you double. Did you just unmute Skype?
Happened?
I think you just unmuted Skype.
Oh, I must have been holding down my Alt key by accident.
Oh, Dave. We went with an Asus H55 motherboard. That's not their good overclocking motherboards for that year, for the LGA 1156 platform. Those were the crappy overclocking motherboards, but that fit our budget. We couldn't go with one of their higher end ones, so we knew that was going to be a little bit of a challenge. Right. For a case, Debbie, Funky Fresh 87 in chat, send her some love. Her old Cooler Master,
like that.
That's not what I meant. Her Cooler Master Wave Master old case, which she hates, is worth about $10. Now the problem with getting a case, and I will concede, I don't think we cheated here, but if you're buying a used case, this is what you have to look out for. If you go on eBay and try to buy a used case, you will not get one for $10 because cases are hard to ship. It's a big box and it weighs like 10 pounds. So most people are going to charge you $20 or $30 to ship it. But if you go on Craigslist, local Facebook groups for like swapping and throwing out old electronics, I looked, it's easy to get a case if you're not super picky about what the case looks like. If you wanted to trim $20 off your budget somewhere else, you could buy a $30 brand new case from Amazon. They'll ship it for free. But we went with Debbie's.
You can go to somewhere like Tiger Direct or Micro Center, and they have used cases all the time for like $15.
Yeah, if you live near a store that sells physical PCs, Best Buy doesn't count. You can go in and you might be able to actually get a case in person, but you're not going to be able to buy one like on eBay for $10.
Or if any of you guys want to ship my like 60-pound Cooler Master solid steel 1000 case, you can have it for free for only the cost of shipping.
It comes in a refrigerator box.
It's delivered by U-Haul.
Indiana Jones curls up inside it when it gets delivered to you.
They don't ship it. They just put wheels on it.
It's that large and that tough. It probably already has wheels on it, doesn't it?
It has skids, so you're not too far off. It has solid steel skids.
All right, then we went with an EVGA 430 watt power supply. It's a good quality power supply. It doesn't have enough power to do SLI or something, but it doesn't need it. Another thing people weren't super happy about, so let me explain. Most computers do not use anywhere near the power of the recommended power supplies. This build pulls at full burn maybe 300 watts.
Full burn. Sound like freaking NASA. Full burn retro rockets. Well, it sounds so intense. And
okay,
then you
I'm sorry, Joel.
What were those technical terms you were using earlier for the Game Boy?
Twin pixel SLI GTX 970 with blaster processing.
Okay, so anyway, so this power supply only has one PCI Express adapter, and the graphics card we got has two PCI Express plugs on it. So you have to use one of those Molex adapters that goes two Molex plugs to PCI Express, and everyone freaks out and goes, you can't do it, you can't do it, you can't do it. Well, if it was going to melt the graphics card, the GPU manufacturers would not ship those Molex connectors in the box. What you can't do is run your graphics card both PCI Express plugs off of those Molex things, because you need your graphics card to be running off the PCI Express rail, the 12-volt rail on your power supply, and we did that. The PCI Express plug, which had plenty of power to run this card, is running off of that. Okay, 4 gigabytes of memory. It actually is DDR3. I misspoke in the video and said DDR2. It is DDR3. This is our probably
Project
biggest.
Is ruined.
I know. This is our biggest gamble. Because everyone, you recommend any PC builds now for gaming. People go 8 gigs of memory, 8 gigs of memory. The new consoles have 8 gigs of memory. It's shared system memory. We think we're going to be okay because 4 gigs of system memory plus 2 gigs of video memory that's 6 gigs of memory. I think we're going to be okay for at least a while, because most games, when you're actually playing them, they don't use more than 750 megabytes to 1.5 gigs of actual memory usage. So if you can keep the rest of Windows pretty low, if you're not running a bunch of other programs at the same time, I was rarely exceeding 3 gigs of memory in testing, and that's with settings all the way up and everything else. So We're taking a little bit of a chance, but I think we're okay for now. And 320 gig hard drive. Also, some people had issue with that it was not a 500 gig hard drive like the PS4. The reason I went with 320 gig, honestly, is I had one sitting around available. I had a 500 gig as well, but I had some stuff on it I didn't really want to delete if I didn't have to, and I was kind of being lazy. And you can get a 500 gig for pretty much the same amount of money, but used. And since I'm only testing games on this, I don't need 500 gigs. I'm not going to install 20 gigs at a time. So I just grabbed a 320 gig that was available and stuck it in there. There's no performance difference at all, so it doesn't really matter. But if you were building this yourself, you'd probably want to get as much storage as you can for all the games you want to play. And lastly,
it would be the same price too.
Yeah, more or less. Again, all of this, like any of the prices I quote in the video, it's like plus or minus $5 or $10 for all of it because it matters what's available, what you can find on sale. I mean, we bought the graphics card new, we bought the fan new, power supply new, memory refurbished, motherboard refurbished. Case used, of course, mouse and keyboard brand new, and the CPU was used. So it wasn't all like crappy old used stuff. Like everything was in good condition. Everything was nice. The only way you could tell the motherboard was used was it didn't have an IO shield. But we ended up going with the GTX 760 graphics card for $140, which we now know is a really good deal on a GTX 760.
A few people have pointed it out to us.
A few people.
A
couple dozen. It just popped up on Slick Deals,
though. I mean,
it popped up on Slick Deals.
You overshot with that card anyway.
What do you mean?
I mean, if we're comparing apples to apples, you could have gone with a much lesser card.
Well, I could. And actually, we were going for cards that had the same performance but were cheaper. We were looking at a Radeon 7950 and a GTX 670. The GTX 670 is a GTX 760. NVIDIA just bumps it down, changes the name for the new generation. The performance would have been identical, and you can find those 7950s were going for $100 to $120. And GTX 670s were going for like 120 to 150. And I kind of want to NVIDIA just for shadow play, make it easier to do like recordings and stuff like the PlayStation can.
Now, do you think if you went down a little bit on the video card and got some more RAM, do you think that would help out in the long run? Or do you think the video card's going to be more helpful in the long run?
That's the gamble. I don't know. I think because
rolling that dice.
Exactly. I honestly, I don't know, Joel. But we paid $30 or $33 or something for our memory. DDR3 memory has actually dropped in price. We can buy brand new 4 gigabytes of brand new DDR3 for $24 now. So, if we need to add more memory a couple years down the road, like we'll talk about it as a podcast then, but it's so stinking cheap. It's like,
2014 was actually a really bad time to buy memory too.
Well, I'm not really talking about price wise. I'm just talking about performance wise. Is it going to? I think the video cards pretty well.
No, I think the video card's more useful because the memory. We're not anywhere close to using up the memory now, but a graphics card can be pushed to its limit on a good game. So I think we have more headroom in memory. But again, we're not running anything on this computer that we don't need to. So if you like. When I game, I normally have all my web browsers, my email running in the background. I have a bunch of other things going on. On the Potato Masher, all it has going is a recording program if I need one, any temperature monitoring stuff I need, and the game. It's like a PlayStation. When you turn on a PlayStation, all you're doing is playing the game. If you pop back out to the main menu to do something else, it suspends the game. It like puts it to sleep for a minute, or if you're out for longer than a couple seconds. Because it can't run a ton of multitasking. It does a really good job of making it seem like it can. It's very, very smart about it. But on the Potato Masher, it doesn't have like any built-in, program suspension features. So we just have to be smart ourselves.
My point being for that, though, about saying you guys, you overshot with it. To get the PS4 graphics, you could have gone with a significantly lesser card. Saved a lot of money.
We could.
So, that, forget the spending it on RAM when people are saying 140 blah blah blah, but this is to get even better performance,
right?
We could have done it for like
maximizing
$80
our money for sure.
Oh, there were good cards, James. I was finding for like $75-$80, like very solid cards, which were probably only 15-20% slower maybe than a GTX 760. But think what we could do with $60 more on the build. That's another 4 gigs of memory. That's maybe another processor generation. Like we could have done a lot. But we gambled, and we're going to see how it works out. So the build itself was really easy. If you've never built a computer before, you could totally build this because it's like one hard drive, one video card, 2 sticks of memory. It's like the most simple build there is.
The most complicated part was probably the Molex connector for the power. But it's in the box. Like,
well, it was mostly I had to duck past the 3,500 warning cards telling me if you do this, you will explode your house if you plug this Molex adapter in. But once I made it past all of those, no, it was pretty easy.
Yeah,
But I did the build in early December, and then I have been testing since then and recording footage, and the videos
not
just went up.
Anything else to
Not
YouTube?
really uploading anything else besides the podcast. And then it went up on YouTube earlier this week, and it's been doing pretty well. I have to say, thank you guys for everyone who's watched it or commented on it, or we've gotten a lot of feedback on both sides of the fence. As is typical on the internet, most of the feedback is on a certain side of the fence, but we've gotten lots of people saying, oh, wow, I was thinking about building a computer pretty soon. I was going to spend more money, or like, oh, cool, I didn't know you could get this much performance for this cheap. This is amazing. A lot of people have been pretty pumped. So, yeah, let's just cut past everything else. Let's go straight to how to do. And I guess James and Joel, I'm guessing you're making fun of us because you're both laughing silently. Okay. So let's jump straight to the performance. Dave, I feel like I'm doing way too much talking. Do you want to take over some, Dave?
I was the encouragement for the project, the one who just gave you a hard time about doing nothing else for a month. This is definitely your thing. Joel, what can you not stop giggling about?
Stop. This is a podcast. They don't really see the video.
Are you just having a good time, Joel?
I'm having a good time. Yeah.
Just having a good time.
Okay. I mean, I just feel like as friends, we can talk about stuff, whatever's going on with you.
Yeah, well, we are friends. Joel? James and I are friends, and we're talking about stuff.
All right. So
ejected from the podcast.
For anyone who's curious, we recorded all the footage so as not to slow down or handicap either system by doing recordings. We didn't use the PS4 onboard recording, and we didn't record on the Potato Masher. We bought, not in the budget, I just bought on my own accord, an Elgato Game Capture HD, which is supposed to be a pretty nice external capture card. It just captures an HDMI signal and passes it along. That's actually what I use for the podcast right now.
Elgato Del Monte.
Exactly. And that's Joel's contribution this half hour. So what was I? Yeah, capturing. So I used DxTory running on the Potato Masher when we were capturing, just so everyone could see the frame rates. Although a couple games wouldn't hook it properly, so you can't see it in some of them. But that's because I'm lying about the frame rates. But yeah, we used Elgato Game Capture HD, recorded everything to my personal computer and edited and looked at it all then. We recorded everything 30 megabit per second quality and 1080p 30 FPS. So even if a game ran at 60, we recorded it at 30. So first, let's start with the games we talk about the most. DayZ. DayZ runs like a not even that polished turd. It runs like a lumpy wet turd most of the time. It runs pretty well in the forest, but anytime you get near objects, so cities, players, lots of clouds, the frame rate tanks pretty hard. And on any settings in a town, you're lucky to get over 30 FPS. And most of the time it's like 20s, if there's a lot of stuff going on. The Potato Masher kept right up with that. Out in the wilderness, it was getting like, I think 40 FPS, like mid 30s to mid 40s. Sometimes in the middle of the woods, we would get as high as 60, but it's DayZ, so I don't know if that really counts. But it worked great. When it got to a town, it dropped to the 20s just like everybody else. If you lowered all the settings to the lowest settings, it could hit close to 40 FPS in town, but that's because you couldn't see farther than like 20 feet in front of you, and it looked terrible. So yeah, DayZ ran great. ARMA 3 in the infantry focused stuff, it could hit 60 FPS with everything on max settings. When you go into things that have like lots of planes or dozens of units or anything else, just like ARMA or just like DayZ, ARMA's frame rate drops pretty fast, and it doesn't really have anything to do with how powerful your computer is. It's that the server on the other end can only run things but so fast because of all the simulation going on. So on the highest settings,
it's not the graphics. It is literally just the simulation.
Yeah, it's
usually on thread 0 that causes issues in ARMA.
Yeah, you can't really upgrade your system to get rid of that, but you can minimize it some, and it did okay. It would drop down to like the low to mid 30s on the highest settings, and if I lowered the visibility and other things, it wouldn't really gain that many frames. So it seems like if you're playing multiplayer, I did join like a Wasteland server. multiplayer server, and I was stuck at about 30 FPS, 1 or 2 dips into like 28, 29, but like it was usually around 30 to 35, which is very, very playable. But if you like 60 FPS all the time, you're not playing ARMA anyway, because it just can't do it. Crisis 3. Crisis 3, you could run on the highest settings in the low 30s, 30, 35, something like that. Looks pretty good. I mean, the game looks gorgeous, but like at 30 something FPS, it's still pretty playable. If you like 60 FPS, you need to drop everything down to very high, but very high.
No, not very high.
Not very high.
Whatever will we do?
But it still looks awesome. So Crisis 3 is another great looking game if you want to check it out.
Dark Souls.
Dark Souls
Yeah,
2. Okay.
here it is.
Dark Souls 2, I've been impressed this year. It's not the best looking game. It's
By far.
obviously it's obviously made for an older console generation. It looks way better on the PC than it does on the Xbox 360. Joel, when we were at the beach and you guys were playing on the Xbox 360, like playing Dark Souls 2, I was amazed how much worse that game looks. Like it was obvious that was pushing the Xbox 360 to its absolute limits when it came out.
Yeah. What? Look at
I don't know,
it.
man. It was pretty
Look on the
crazy.
bigger screen. I have both,
make
and
a
I play them
compelling
back
argument.
and forth.
Nah.
I played both. They're really honestly not that different other than resolution. I mean, the one that's locked to 720p. So
it might be most of it. If it's like
really,
720p.
honestly, it really is that because
Yeah, it could
you
be
run
that.
in some corridors in Dark Souls 2 on Xbox 360, it runs at 60 FPS. It's like they just unlocked. So honestly, it's more of the resolution than anything else.
Right.
Because
Okay.
there's not much else that's added on PC other than just really nice resolution.
And honestly, that was the biggest differences, like at the end of the PS3 and Xbox 360 generation, the biggest differences between that and the PC were everything on the consoles pretty much was running at 720p, barely 30 FPS, and all the textures were really low res because the systems didn't have enough memory.
Excuse me.
So that was really the only big performance benefit of the PC was like, yeah, we can do textures. We can just add more memory. Yeah, we can do... we can do higher resolution. We can just add more graphics cards. No big deal. But Dark Souls 2, I started out running 1080p, everything all the way up. When I say everything all the way up, I don't include anti-aliasing all the way up, but includes enough anti-aliasing that aliasing isn't noticeable. That's my standard for it. Because some games will let you turn it up to like 8x or something where it's just like it's killing your performance and there's not really a tangible visual benefit. Of course, Dave will argue with you. But for most people, there's no tangible benefit. So I turn it up until I don't notice any aliasing, until I think, okay, this looks great. But everything else is on Ultra.
Everyone's perception of aliasing is going to be different. Mine's
true.
just extra special.
Extra wide. No. So Dark Souls 2 ran on the highest settings at 1080p, 60 FPS locked from like minute 1 locked, no issues. When you hit like a loading screen or something, of course it dips, but that's not really the game dipping. But yeah, ran at 60 FPS. So I was like, what would happen if we turned on NVIDIA Dynamic Super Resolution? NVIDIA Dynamic Super Resolution is where they will render the game. Your graphics card renders the game at higher resolutions and then downsamples it to fit your screen. So you can run a game at like 1440p downscaled to 1080p and your models look a little better. Like all your hard polygonal edges look a little smoother. Aliasing issues get a little bit better. It's hard to describe, but if you see it, you would definitely agree that something that's played at a higher resolution looks better, even if your screen resolution doesn't change. And Bohemia Games have been doing this for years with their rendering resolution. The Witcher 2 did it. It was called super sampling. That's a common name for
sampling.
it. Uber sampling.
That's right.
If you use game plugins like DayZ, I think it's called, that will super sample your games for you. So there people have been doing it for years, but NVIDIA has built it into their software now. And it's pretty great. So I bumped Dark Souls 2. I was like, let's just go for it. What does it take to run at 4K? It runs it at 4K, 60 FPS. I did knock a couple things down to high, but there was zero visual difference. Dark Souls 2 doesn't look crazy amazing at 4K. I have a 4K monitor, and I've played it at 4K. And it looks better, but it's not amazing. But it definitely looks like 15, 20% better than it does at 1080p. On the Potato Masher, and it was running it at 60 FPS, which is not like, oh, the Potato Masher's so amazing. It can play games at 4K. No, it can play Dark Souls 2 at 4K. But it can play it at 4K really well. So I think that was all the PC exclusives, wasn't it, Dave?
Yeah, I think you're right.
Okay, from then I moved straight to Battlefield 4. Dave, would you mind talking about where we're at with Battlefield 4? Everything's been sounding good up till now. Let's take a hype break.
I don't think this is so much a Potato Masher issue as it is
it's an issue of some kind.
Issue.
It's an issue of some kind. I wanted to show off Battlefield 4 and compare it because it came out. It was a launch game or launch window game for the PlayStation 4, and it came out on the PC. So I wanted to try it out, but what happened?
Yeah, so for me personally, Battlefield 4 has been working since that big patch, like what was it, last May or whatnot, on 2 different systems. But I think you've still had some issues on your main computer too since then, right?
A couple, and we don't know if they're server related because I don't play it as much as you do. So I could just be getting unlucky with a couple.
I haven't played Battlefield
servers.
since like early December.
You play it more than I do, though. I've only played it a handful of times since the big patches, and it's run like garbage. One night it ran great, and then it's run like garbage. But I've only played it like 3 times. So
yeah. And then on the Potato Masher, you had just the weirdest stuttering, and we just could not lock it down. And the night that you were recording, I just wasn't available to help you, troubleshoot it. So we got to the point where we were not trying to like cover up the fact that the Potato Masher had issues with a game. It's more that Battlefield 4 is just an outlier still. It's really hard to get consistent results from Battlefield 4 on anything. So I think we're going to revisit that, aren't we?
We are. I pulled at Dave's request, or Dave's counsel, I'll say. I pulled the Battlefield 4 video from the Potato Masher video the night before launch. Dave feels like we did get inconsistent results, and I do want to give Battlefield a fair shake, not extra privileges. Again, yes, a fair shake like James is doing.
I'll do it again since you said that. There we go.
But I don't want to take the chance that like maybe their servers were getting hit hard one night or something. Like I didn't do a full review of the game. I just popped it in to see how it plays. So you want to give it a fair chance and make sure I'm not going, nope, can't run that on a slow computer, because I know plenty of people are. And I know the Potato Masher is capable of running it because it ran the campaign, everything all the way up. Yep. 1080p.
Looked really good.
Looked really great. So, I want to give it a fair shake. We're going to try it again. But for the games we compared, the PlayStation 4 versus the PC versus the Potato Masher, this is where it really gets to the rubber hitting the road. Did we hit our mark? Now, there's 2 things. Joel did not doubt we were going to hit our mark now, did you, Joel?
Yeah.
Yes, you did, or no, you didn't?
No. I knew you guys would be. This year would be fine.
Okay, cool. I just want to make sure
from like when you build it until
anytime we're talking about.
I think it's like next year, like once the new kind of games start coming out, that it might start seeing some problems.
Well, I want to bring that up because I don't want any of the cockiness we're about to show off. I don't want anyone to think we're like making fun of Joel. Haha, you didn't think we could do it. Joel knew we were going to get to this point.
Screw you, Joel.
This is very much a friendly challenge. Joel's on the same side as us, looking ahead of is this thing going to be able to play games 4 or 5 years down the road? We think it's going to be able to. I am a little bit skeptical just because we don't know what's coming years down the road. Joel is a little more skeptical than we are. I'm guessing James is also about as skeptical as Joel.
I don't give a crap.
All right. Thanks for coming out to the podcast, James. But yeah, so I don't want anyone to think we're not like poking fun at Joel or anything. Joel knew this part was going to go well. So at first we compared it. Let me see. Assassin's Creed Unity, great game to start out with, because it runs like garbage on all systems. But it definitely looks better on the PC.
Yeah.
On the PlayStation 4, it's running at 900p with most of the settings on low. It doesn't look bad. Like if you just looked at video footage of somebody playing the game, you go, that's a pretty good looking game. Like it could be a really awesome PlayStation 3 game, or it could be an early launch PlayStation 4 game. I think Assassin's Creed Black Flag, which was a launch game, actually looked better, but that'll be a future comparison video. But Unity had quite a few performance issues, and they fixed a lot of them, but it's still not amazing. I still, on both systems, the PlayStation 4 was dropping into the teens in performance at times, and it was already running at really low resolutions, and curiously, really low resolution with some anti-aliasing. So if they had that much performance overhead, I don't know what was standing between them and 1080p, but I'm assuming they had their reasons. They picked 900p for a reason.
Hilariously, Ubisoft's patching method for the consoles has been to literally rip sections of the renderer out, like turn off multiple different light sources and all kinds of stuff. Like they're just shutting stuff down to get frames out of that game now.
Which is like repairing a house by carving pieces of it off and throwing them away and being like, you don't have a broken sunroom anymore. It's like, I don't have a sunroom at all anymore. You're like, exactly. You don't have a broken sunroom anymore. It's kind of like that. But yeah, it definitely looked better on the Potato Masher and ran better on the Potato Masher, but it ran pretty poorly on both systems. But the visual edge definitely goes to the Potato Masher. If you really like Assassin's Creed, revisit it in like a year. Maybe they'll have fixed everything. Maybe a pirated version of the game will actually work. Not that we're suggesting that, but yeah, not a great game. Then we moved on to Far Cry 4, an equally frustrating experience. It actually ran great and looked pretty great on the PlayStation 4. On the Potato Masher, we had the good fortune of being on Ubisoft's crap list. When Far Cry 4 released, and we got it for free when Dave bought an NVIDIA graphics card. Came for free with an NVIDIA graphics card, and it turns out it had major problems running on a lot of NVIDIA hardware. And this is an advantage of consoles. They know exactly what GPU is in the PlayStation 4. They know exactly how much memory it has. They know exactly what processor they're working with. And they can tailor everything exactly to that. And they know it works on that system, which makes Assassin's Creed Unity even more confusing. But Far Cry 4 had random stuttering while we were playing it on the Potato Masher. And it didn't have this stuttering on my computer. And curiously, it doesn't really seem to have it on Dave's computer. And he's also running NVIDIA. So
I had it for the first 2 patches, but the third patch, which came out in like a week and a half after the game launched, perfectly fine since then. Yeah, but Joel still has issues too, so it's...
I might check in with it like in another month or so on the Potato Masher, see if it's gotten any better. But it definitely looked a little bit better on the PC, but not a ton. We were able to run it, everything on Ultra, it could run it like 30 FPS, 35 FPS, getting up into like the high 40s, low 50s, depending on what was going on. If you drop the settings down, a mixture of Ultra and High, the performance went right up to very close to 60 pretty much all the time. If you had everything on High, I believe it was. But you could play around with a mix of settings, and when it wasn't stuttering, it ran pretty smoothly. Definitely looked better than the PlayStation 4, but again, the PlayStation 4 looks great. So good on them.
There are some definite, just really high-end PC graphical features in Far Cry 4. It's the kind of stuff that for this current gen is not a big deal, but it's things that we're going to see more standardized as games.
Things like their fur engine, like the fur gently waving in the breeze and stuff. Like,
yeah, like no one needs that, but I would bet you in 3 or 4 years, it's going to be like fur will no longer look like crappy alpha textures on a model. It'll actually have some motion and stuff to it.
It's not so much about making the animal fur look good. It's that in maybe 5 years, cloth physics will have taken this tech and become so amazing. You know, like the capes won't clip through your sword in every single stinking RPG ever.
Oh, yeah. Stuff like that, but definitely props to the Far Cry 4 team for knocking some PC exclusive stuff out there, even if it was a lot of NVIDIA PC exclusive.
Even if it didn't work that well, thanks for trying, guys.
It works for me. That's all that counts, right?
Exactly, that's all that counts. And then what was the next game? Trine 2. Let's start with Trine 2, because if you're building a PC on a budget, chances are you're going to play some indie games. You're going to get a lot of games in Humble Bundles. You're going to get games on Steam sales. And this is one thing where the PlayStation 4 is actually the PlayStation platform they've really been developing in the past couple years. They do a really good job of indie games now. When the PS3 and the Xbox 360 launched, indie games like just didn't come out on those systems. Like if you wanted indie games, there weren't very many, and they were pretty much all on the PC. Yeah. But towards the end of their console generation, things actually got pretty good, and now they're great. Especially if you have PlayStation Plus, Sony will give you a couple games a month, which are usually indie games because it's not monetarily worth it for them to give away that many AAA games.
Although they did just give away, if you didn't know, First Light.
Yes, they gave away standalone DLC, but it's good. But though, as the system gets older, there'll be more and more AAA games on PlayStation Plus. But right now, they don't have that many to pull from, and all of them are a year old, so they're a little more cautious about it, understandably.
Right.
Or maybe not cautious. They can't afford to pay the developers what the developers would need to make for it to be worth it for them to put the game on PlayStation Plus. But yeah, indie games have become pretty popular, and Trine 2 is a great example. It's a really awesome indie game. It runs great on both systems. It runs 1080p 60 FPS on the PlayStation 4 and looks great, and runs at 1080p 60 FPS on the Potato Masher and looks great, and it looks exactly the same. So I was like, well, what does it run at 4K? So I did dynamic super resolution up to 4K, and it runs at a VSync. You can VSync it to 30 FPS, and it looks and runs great. This is one of those games, honestly, does not need to run at 60 FPS. If you want to run it at 60 FPS, go for it. But the game doesn't really feel a ton different. It's just not that fast. But at 4K, it definitely looks a little bit better than it does on the PlayStation 4, but not so much that it's a game-changing experience. It's just got that little bit of extra edge to it.
That means the world to Dave.
That means the world to Dave. Up next is Metal Gear Solid 5 Ground Zeroes, the playable level from Metal Gear Solid 5. But you can play it multiple times to different objectives, but it's the same level. Now this would
So it's like Destiny.
Yeah, it's a lot like Destiny.
Once again,
although actually Destiny did have more content per dollar than this. This was really, they would never be able to sell this except Metal Gear Solid.
Can we all put a bet on how many hours Dave will put into it? I put
20.
I put 20. 5 hours into it. I think 25 hours.
So my quick confession here. I asked Joel last night. I told him I played it for the first time. I got about almost an hour in before I had to go do something else for a little bit and come back to it. But I asked Joel, I'm like, Joel, so in Metal Gear, how far do you think I got from launching the game in 1 hour? And what was your original guess, Joel? You said like...
I said I bet he didn't even get to that first little rock. Like the first little thing you walk like 5 feet.
And he was correct, because I spent about 20 minutes in the main menu tweaking settings, and then I read all of like those comic book slideshows, like with all the lore and the backstory and stuff, because I've missed a bunch of these games now. Went through all of that, loaded the game, lots of cool long cutscenes. Then the game actually started. I actually went negative 10 feet backwards, discovered while going through my inventory and all my options and my map and stuff that I had something like 40 audio logs that you start with. So I hid in a bush and listened to every audio log.
Listen to how excited he sounds.
I absorbed all the story. And then I found an Easter egg patch actually in that bush, like someone had dropped it out of the helicopter. I found it where I was hiding, listening to all the audio logs. And I was like, well, I'll have to come back to this later. That's a good hour in, and close the game.
Yeah.
Fun game, though. Very fun. Audio logs, fantastic.
So I was expecting this to look the same on the PC as it does on the PlayStation 4, because it's developed primarily on the PlayStation 4. That's the lead platform. And they're supposed to hit 1080p 60 FPS on the PlayStation 4. And I just figured the PC wouldn't really look that much better. Why would you let, a PC look better than your main platform? And that's generally the case. Of course, you can run it at a higher resolution if you want to. At 4K, obviously the game is going to look better. You can change the depth of field, and that confused a lot of people in the video comparison. A lot of people were telling me they thought the PC version looked better. I looked at the footage a lot longer than anyone else, and I say they look like pretty much exactly the same, except I made the depth of field effect a lot stronger on the PC version just because I wanted to see what it looked like, and it looked cool.
And people who love those like E&B mods and stuff probably love that.
People don't understand how cameras actually work and think everything is shot at f1.2. Really go for that.
I was telling Joel too today that that's a great looking game, but it's because of the lighting and the shaders. The actual assets, the rocks and the buildings and stuff, they're not super high polygon. The textures aren't super high res, but they make really good use of their shaders.
I would take shaders over textures.
In a lot of cases, it's more noticeable. Yeah, in a lot of cases, unless you're like.
I mean, if you look at the characters, the players in that game, they look
all
amazing.
Look good. They all look
They're
good.
really high detailed. I mean, when you go up that close
outside of
to
characters, though, environment objects especially are definitely lower polygon and lower textures.
The overall effect, though, still looks great.
Exactly.
But now the PC does have more dynamic lights. Like if you look at the comparison, if you look when he's looking over the camp at the start of Ground Zeroes. There are more lights. There's more going on in the PC version. There's more objects. But that's just because you can have more objects, and if the PC can run it, great. If it can't, they can turn it back down. But that's like that, and the textures being maybe 10% better is really the only differences. It looks great, runs great on both systems. I couldn't get a frame rate count for the Potato Masher because DX Tory would not hook on Ground Zeroes. But it appeared to be running at 60 FPS. I mean, there was no noticeable slowdown at any point, no hitching, no glitches. Everything was buttery smooth. Okay. The last comparison was Alien Isolation, a game Joel has talked about a lot. We've all talked about. It's a great game. And the thing, and I've said this every podcast probably for like the last 4, is the thing I like most about Alien Isolation is it looks amazing on both systems and runs amazing on both systems. It runs 1080p, 60 FPS on both systems. On the Potato Masher, it looks better. The highest settings on the PC do look better than the PlayStation 4 by a noticeable margin. And it can run everything 60 FPS and everything all the way up on Ultra, even with anti-aliasing all the way up, because there's only 3 levels of anti-aliasing in that game. It can run at 60 FPS, V-synced, no problem. I also ran it at 4K, and it ran it at 30 to 35 FPS at 4K, and looked amazing. So that game, if you're okay with 30 FPS, like if you're fine with that, you can play Alien Isolation at 4K on the Potato Masher. So those are all
just ridiculous.
Those are all the games we compared. So Joel and James, like, I don't know if you guys want to talk about this a bunch or if you've really been really bored by this whole thing. Like, if you want to rip it apart or you want to poke holes in anything, you want to ask questions, you want to challenge anything we've just laid out. I've been talking for like 45 straight minutes. And I would
you guys just watched the video again.
Yeah. Thanks,
basically,
guys.
I'd be eager to hear what you guys have to say. Good, bad, challenging, not challenging, whatever you...
I want to hear from Joel, the challenge master.
No, I'm,
Wow.
honestly, I'm not
Once he
surprised
wakes
by
up.
anything. I'm not surprised by any of it. Like, it's not like, oh, wow, it ran well. I mean, a lot of the games that you're running... this is what I think about PC, especially with the RAM. Like, you have 4 gigs of RAM. Either the game runs extremely well and doesn't need really any RAM. Like, I mean, like Alien Isolation, that the game just runs so nice.
Well, I mean,
I wish every game...
RAM.
I'm not... Okay.
I mean, it's not like
Take
it
it
just
out of the
doesn't need
system
any
and try
RAM.
it.
No, I mean, it
Pull her
does.
out. I don't need it. Your PC's like on fire. No, I'm just saying, like, games either run extremely well and don't need much RAM and don't need high performance computers. And then there's the games on the complete opposite side that are just like, you really need a lot of overhead. And that's just generally how PC games are.
No.
Like, there's a few in the middle. But that's just kind of how it is.
No, I disagree, actually. Because I looked at the performance monitors constantly when I was playing this for the graphics card and for the CPU. I think most games just don't use that much system memory, and we've all been sold a crock of lies about how much we need. The most demanding game, Joel, did not go over 1.5 gigs of it using memory. So however much you're using, and then 1.5 gigs.
Let me clarify again. Sorry. Yeah, I actually 100% agree with you. I think that is, yeah, definitely 100% crock of lies when it comes to actual RAM being used. Sorry, to better clarify for what I mean is,
I'm a freaking liar.
No.
You know when you look on, remember when we used to get PC game boxes, right? On the back when it showed requirements and stuff like that. When, let's say the requirements say 4 gigs of RAM or 6 gigs of RAM, or the video card says a GTX 760 or whatever, right? I meant from that. I don't actually even know sometimes, because I don't turn on CPU monitors and stuff like you guys do. But when it comes to that, it's like, okay, crap, you need to have a pretty good... whether or not it's actually physically using all the 4 gigs of RAM or 8 gigs of RAM you have, since the game says you need 8, if you have less than 8, for some reason, it will be kind of squirrely, unless some games kind of somehow work, like that Call of Duty game. But most of the time, no, you kind of have to have it, whether or not it uses that much or not.
The only thing I'll challenge you on about that is that you don't have... There's no real hard data you can point to. A lot of this is subjective. Like, it feels like I have more problems. It feels like you have less. Like, we've just been talking tonight. We've all had different experiences on the PC. Far Cry 4 has run well for Dave. It's run poorly for Joel. It ran poorly for me on one system and ran great for me on another. There is a lot of subjectivity to this. And that is
well, because
a bit of an
PCs
issue.
all have random
Because
parts.
they're all different.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so I'm talking generally. Like... Can you guys not agree the fact that there's either really, really well made games and computers, and then some that are just like, they're hard to run because they're just not optimized.
I will agree with you, and I will expound upon it in a way I think you'll agree with. So, by example, Alien Isolation, a game that runs well. When I turn it up to 4K, the GPU is at 100%. Like, that's all the GPU can do. CPU's at like 70%. The system memory, it's still sitting at like 2.5 gigs total. The game isn't running at a super fast FPS. It's running at like low 30s, but everything works. You hit pause, the menu pops right up. You know, you can flip through everything. You can tab out, you can tab back in, and it's okay. On Assassin's Creed Unity, you want to change something, God help you. You want to go into that pause menu. You want to, like, on the high resolution, like high settings and stuff, it could take like a half second to flip between menu items. That game chugs so bad. So I think what Joel's saying, like a well-made, well-optimized game, even if the system's getting pushed hard, everything works pretty well. It just will run at a lower frame rate. A crappy game is just crappy.
It's like you can tell a difference between you jump into a game and go, oh man, my computer can't run it that well, but it's not like you feel like the game's actually ported really bad. It's just like, oh, this game has some really good graphics.
Grand Theft Auto 4.
I need to upgrade my computer. Yeah.
Grand Theft Auto 4. Your CPU would sit at like maybe 40-50% usage, your graphics card at 20%, your memory barely getting used, and the game's running at like 25 FPS. That game was just an abomination of a port.
Jeremiah, I just launched that game last month on this computer, a GTX 970 and a hexa-core CPU. My average FPS at 1080p was 45.
Dave, I think you need to remind us every podcast that you have a hexa-core CPU.
It didn't matter if the GTA was using 2 cores.
When it's hexa-core,
you can tell the difference between 8-time anti-aliasing and 16 times. Needs to make sure to read.
It's a matter of sampling, Joel.
Well, if you really want to tell the difference, Dave, get a 4K monitor.
There's the trump card. So,
Joel, get a
think,
curved one. 21 by 9.
I think we can sum it up,
get
Joel,
3.
by saying,
wrap it around your face. Get an Oculus Rift and stare at your 4K monitor through your Oculus Rift. It doesn't work, but it sounds nice.
You know it's there. I think what we could say is that the PC platform is obviously not limited by budget whatsoever. It's not limited by your hardware choices. It's more and more becoming limited by crappy games that are not well made.
In this past year, that's been a limiting factor on the consoles too. Most of the games that have had bad problems, Watch Dogs, Assassin's Creed, most of the Ubisoft games this year, they've run poorly on both systems, and the consoles have gotten patched faster because they have unified hardware. But it's unfortunately been pretty crappy, which makes me nervous for this year because we are looking forward to The Division a lot. Joel, like, how much of your personal happiness is tied up in The Division having a successful launch?
I don't care about the actual day one launch as long as it's working within 1 week.
Okay.
Which launch do you care about then?
What do you mean?
Never mind.
For any kind of game?
Nothing. Just keep moving.
I care about the launch of my movie Norman. No, for that game. I mean, I hope it's a really good game. I don't care about the online multiplayer stuff if it's corrupted for 1 week. But if it's fixed within 1 week and it's just working, I'll deal with it. Okay. Like, I'm excited.
A lot of games have growing pains when they go to the mass market. That's kind of to be expected because of how popular games are, and our internet infrastructure is absolutely awful. I mean, some stuff's to be expected, but when I've got early access games that are running better than Assassin's Creed Unity, a AAA release, that's just not good.
James, what are your thoughts besides not caring?
Oh, I still stand by that.
Okay, so you want to skip on past?
I think because you did
bold stance.
I think because you did go a little bit higher on the graphics card compared to the PS4, like you didn't try to match spec for spec.
Right.
I think when the years 4 and 5 come around, even if you're not able to run the games at Ultra, you're still going to be able to run them probably at a comparable level.
Right. Well, James, I mean, you have a, I mean, pardon me, but you have a kind of a crappy graphics card, right? You have a 550 Ti?
No, I got rid of that.
Oh, well, I mean, you had one. I'm sorry, you did upgrade. What'd you upgrade to?
It actually ran almost everything at high. I mean, Ultra.
You played everything we were playing. And a 550 Ti, spoilers, is not a super high-end card these days. You can probably get one for $50 or $60 online, and you can still game on it. That's where I'm hoping that this computer will be in a couple years. Like, it'll still be able to do it, even if it's on low on the PC will be comparable to whatever the PlayStation 4 is putting out at that time. That's my hope, because that's what happened in the last generation. By the end, low on the PC looked better than whatever the PS3 and Xbox 360 could put out.
Yep.
So that's what I'm hoping. But do you want to challenge any testing methodology? I mean, not challenge, but do you see any holes in what we did as a member of Casual Shenanigans?
Spoiler alert, James. There's nothing you can challenge that hasn't already been challenged by Reddit.
I know. I read them all.
I just want to know, because, I mean, you guys are obviously an important part of the podcast.
We talked about it beforehand. You remember the conversation you and I had?
I do.
Where I said, I wash my hands of your filth. You guys battle it out on your own.
There was one thing I would love to see this test. Maybe one of these days, maybe when I probably, since I'm never going to visit Jeremiah, but I will visit Dave. I would love to see you guys VSync it to 30, like just a game that I have on a PlayStation 4 that's VSync to 30. Because I'm very curious. almost every game that I played it like VSync at 30, like on the computer, especially when I play Borderlands 2, you can VSync it to 30. It never looks the same as it's on a PS4 or a console. It just and when it is locked, obviously like Dark Souls 1.
Joel, are you hooking it up to your TV though?
Yeah, if you're playing it locked at 30 FPS on a 60 hertz monitor. That's like saying, movies don't look the same.
Okay, so that's the difference.
That's what it is. Because if you plug like a movie into a 240 hertz TV that has the motion smoothing on, like it makes everything look crappy.
But wait a second though. My TV is a 60 hertz, and I can watch it. I can watch 24p movies, and 30p looks fine.
It's a television though. It's smarter about.
It is different. Okay,
it's smarter about different frame rates.
Curious.
Yeah, that's the difference. It's smarter about frame rates. It's designed to operate those low frame rates. No modern PC monitor, except for the first wave of 4K monitors, they are designed at 60 hertz and up. That's okay.
I know mine's a 60 hertz, but since the TV was a 60 hertz as well, I didn't think that was.
That's exactly what it is.
Okay, because I'm always wondering, because Dave says, we'll just lock it at 30. I'm like, but it looks like absolute crap.
No, Joel,
on a monitor.
If this helps you at all,
30.
I plug to plug my PC into my projector. I have to run it at 30 hertz because I'm running such a long HDMI cable run. You can't push 60 hertz at that distance. So anything I play at 720p, 30 hertz. And so I'm basically playing the Xbox 360 experience, but it looks and feels super smooth. No issues. I use a wireless Xbox 360 controller. Nice. Honestly, I couldn't tell.
So it really is just the PC monitor. Well, that's nice to know because I know.
And it depends on the monitors too, because some monitors have motion smoothing on them. Some of them have different performance modes. Like there's enough difference there. You might play in some monitors look great and some monitors look terrible.
So I guess.
Do we have in our budget to maybe buy a couple TVs to test it out? Side by side.
I'll have one up here too.
I guess
my question is, I think something that would be really, I wish PC had more was demos or tech demos for games.
Yes.
Because, being able to go, oh, hey, let me test out Far Cry. Does it really work a lot better? Does it run really well on my computer? I mean, it says the requirements are better.
If there was ever a case for pirating a game, it's when it first comes out. It would be to pirate it, see if it works, and then buy it. I'm not officially endorsing piracy. I'm just saying if there was ever going to be a real case for it, it would be, you won't let me know how this game's going to run? Fine. I'll just... Because
that's what I think is such a bunch of hogwash these days is you go, oh, requirements, sweet, I got it way above. Not even close. I can tell the difference when it says, okay, if it says the video card needs to be a 760 and above, let's say mine is 760. Okay, it's right there at the edge. So I'm probably not expecting it to run amazing. But then when you go and you're like, oh, I can't even run it at poop quality.
Well, let's do a news item. Let's do one of the news items right now because this is extremely irrelevant to what you're saying. System requirements are a load of crap, in my opinion. This news item, The Witcher 3 system requirements have been leaked. Okay, here are the minimum...
No, released. They're actually
released.
Officially out.
Not leaked. Yeah, they've been released. Here are...
You sound like some gaming spam blog.
Sorry.
Leaked.
So here are the official minimum system requirements. An i5 2500K, which is one generation newer than the Potato Masher if you're keeping score. Or an AMD Phenom X4 940. This is why minimum system requirements are a bunch of crap. Both of those processors are quad cores that are a couple years old. The 2500K is about 40 to 50% faster in every measurable benchmark than that AMD processor. That AMD processor is way, way slower. So really what they mean by that is you need a quad core that's a couple years old to run the game well, is what they're actually saying.
Right.
Then GeForce GTX 660 or Radeon HD 7870. Those cards are decently comparable, but the 660 is a bit of a better card than a 7870. So which do you need? Do you need a 7870 or 660? Well, you probably actually need something a little bit slower than either of those, but they figured, well, if you have this or you have this, you'll be fine, and they need to be able to list something from AMD and NVIDIA. But that's kind of a load of crap. You need 6 gigabytes of RAM. I promise you, you do not need 6 gigabytes of RAM to run Witcher 3. Like I said, most modern games on ultra settings use no more than a gig to a gig and a half of system memory on their own.
Hold on one second, though. Is that minimum again?
That's
6 gigs
minimum. That's minimum.
Yeah, that's crap for minimum. However, I wouldn't be surprised to see 4 gigs or more usage in Witcher 3 because it is 64-bit required.
Right.
Battlefield 4 makes great use of system memory. It does use a couple of gigs to 3 gigs if you let it.
Right. But
which is a good thing.
For minimum, I think it's crap.
For minimum 6 gigs, no. That's an exaggeration.
And then the next thing is the operating system. Yes, you need a 64-bit. It has had to happen sooner or later. Most people have been going 64-bit for like the past 5 or 6 years on their personal systems. It was going to happen sooner or later. XP got killed off at some point. It had to happen to this too. DirectX 11. Well, if you have either of those video cards, you have DirectX 11. And then 40 gigabytes of hard drive space. Welcome to the new console generation. The textures are huge.
What if someone went out and bought a 40 gig hard drive for that game? And just they look at the minimum like, oh, you only need a 40 gig.
They buy a 60 gig SSD. They're like, I'm good. I've got 20 spare gigs for Windows. And then their recommended system requirements are an i7 3770 or an AMD FX 8350. Okay, I've owned an 8350. I own a 3570K, which is the non-hyper-threaded version of the 3770. My 3570K is faster in every single, like per core is faster in every measurable benchmark than my 8350. So do you actually need an 8350 or do you actually need a 3770? Neither. You just need, it looks like a quad core, a fast quad core or a processor with hyper-threading for recommended requirements. Then they recommend a GTX 770 or an Radeon R9 290. I have an R9 290. I used to own a GTX 770. My 290 is about 60% faster than a 770. So which do you need again? I mean, you need the 770. Like, it doesn't make any sense. These requirements have really nothing to do with each other. 8 gigabytes of RAM, 64-bit Windows, DirectX 11, 40 gigabytes of hard drive space. So that's the minimum requirements for The Witcher 3. So 3 or 4 months after the Potato Masher was built, it's going to get a big challenge. It's going to officially not meet the minimum system requirements for a game, and we're going to see how it runs. I promise you, it's going to run at least okay because it's coming out on the PlayStation 4, and we know what that hardware looks like. So if nothing else, I can drop the settings to where it looks like the PlayStation 4, and it should run pretty similar to it. So we'll see.
We shall see.
I'm sorry. I sneezed.
I'm getting Witcher 3 on PS4 so you can use that for Potato Masher.
Thanks, man. I'll take it out of my GameFly queue. If anyone's wondering, where are you getting all these games to compare? Are you stealing them?
Rich bastard.
Thank you for giving your Patreon money. I've signed up for GameFly. It's $15 a month, and I can have as many games as I want, but I can only have one at a time. So it's like Netflix. I put games on my list. They mail them to me. I play it, I send it back that week, and they send me another one. So it's a very, very cost-efficient way to play games. Yeah, they're making fun of us again, Dave.
Just take it.
Classic narcissism.
What?
I said classic narcissism.
What's Oh, right.
Wait, what is narcissism again?
When you only care about yourself and everything revolves around your opinion of yourself. So the joke... You're right, Joel. The joke is, I see you guys laughing
just
and
being
assume
a friendly dick.
You must be. And we're off the rails. Tried it, guys. Sorry, made it over an hour. There it goes.
Is James dying?
Okay, that saying was supposed to be kind of like just being a friendly douchebag, but that didn't go well.
You know, guys, when you're sad and alone and all you need is a friendly dick.
Joel's there for you.
Just trying to make the podcast worth it, guys. If you can make it to the first hour and 6 minutes, there's a really good spot right there that'll make you laugh.
People have been excited about this, Joel. Some people.
They put money into it.
People on occasion. No, if you, for all the comparisons, people usually, when people are picking on consoles, they'll say, yeah, but every game's $60 and it's so much cheaper to game on the PC and yada, yada, yada. And it is if you want to own the games. If you just want to play a game and then take it back.
But actually, that's actually not all that true. It really isn't.
It's very true.
Okay, no, it isn't. Look at this, right?
Yes.
So outside of Call of Duty games and stuff like that, you can buy games really cheap. Now you're not going to probably get them for $3, but you're going to get them for about $10, $15. You can.
Not AAA releases that are a couple months old.
Dave waits like 8 to 9 months. You don't buy games when they come out. It's the same thing with console games.
I constantly watch the front page of Slick Deals. You see a game go on sale. Like I saw a front page item on Slick Deals where Shadow of Mordor was like $29.99 on the PS4. Like that was considered a good deal. I could have bought that for like $15 already on PC. Half
Joel,
the price.
people can buy games on release on the PC for $35 to $40.
I don't care, but if you wait long enough, you can get it cheap. Just the same way you guys wait for long. So I'm saying if you want it right within 6 months, you're going to get cheaper on PC. But if you wait 6 to 12 months,
to give the consoles, I was trying to give like a little extra props to the consoles right now, and you won't let me.
I'm going to let you, but I'm just saying I wanted to give more fact to that. It's not like,
more fact.
It's not $60
You wanted to give
for
more
every game.
feelings. You wanted to give more feelings, not more facts.
Emotions.
Feels, not reels.
Just clutch your controller, Joel. So it'll be okay.
All right, thank you. From the Tumblr corner.
I will say it in Joel's defense that with games, you only go to so many places to buy them for PC. And, you know, you look at stores. I mean, you've got so many different retailers. Mm-hmm. I can get games significantly cheaper when I buy them used at GameFly when they have their sales.
Yeah.
Like, I don't generally spend more than $20 on a game.
I was going to say, if you're on a console,
it's been out for a couple months.
The way I think you should ought to buy games is rent them from GameFly for $15 a month, or get them from Redbox. If it's a AAA game, all my Redboxes in this area, your area might differ, they have like the popular 5 or 6 games out at the time. So right now they have Assassin's Creed Unity, they have Modern Warfare or Advanced Warfare, they have Far Cry 4, they have Diablo 3, Drive Club, and an NBA game. Like that's what's in Redbox. So if you want to play those games, you can get them for $2 a day.
I'm just saying GameFly's sales are usually really good.
And I have been looking on GameFly. Their sales aren't bad. It is not as cheap as it is on the PC, but it can be a lot cheaper. It's definitely not like a lot of PC Master Race people say, where they're like, well, every game's $60. It's not true.
If you wait a while, it's definitely going to be always kind of under $20. You know, I mean, you're going to find a sale $10, $15, even cheaper than that too. But it's just saying,
you get resale value. Yeah. That's the one benefit you get of buying a disc copy.
It is.
Yeah, you are able to sell back and stuff. But, you know, I'm just saying, if you're like Dave and you do wait a while, you can get a good deal.
There's online passes now and DLC. They are very purposefully segmenting games to cut into the used
true.
market.
Selling the used console games has gotten less good than it used to be, but it's still not. It's better than it is on the PC because you can sell the games, but it's less good than it used to be.
Look, guys, I can buy GTA 5 on the PS4 for a low price of $60. I don't want to hear any more of this bull crap.
That's lower than
Joel,
any price
PC,
it is on the PC.
Can you guys buy it for cheaper?
I can buy it right now. Can't play it right now. I can buy it right now. So yeah, I mean, anyone have any other comments for the Potato Masher for now? We're not going to talk about all the controversy on Reddit and the literally hundreds of people that told us we were wrong.
While just reading the title, I'm pretty sure.
But yeah. So are we good to move on? Is everyone?
Can I just do a last brief summary of what this whole challenge was for?
Sure.
In case anyone forgot.
Yeah, absolutely.
This whole thing was more of just an interesting science experiment to go for the average price of a PS4, the average price of like what can you get on a PC? Like Dave and Jeremiah are very smart. They know tons of stuff about PC parts. They can get all this stuff extremely cheap. You know, they know how to find it, know where to look where to go. And it's something that Picor said. He's like, if you're someone who's not willing to look for a cheaper price, like PC parts and know all that, you're probably never going to get into PC stuff anyways at all. Right. Like you're just not going to be going there, So what you're paying for the PC, like when you get this stuff, is you're paying for the time to put it together. Like you need to have a little bit more know-how when it comes to that. But just the average idea of like, it'd be cool to see what does a PC look like if you spend the same amount of money for a PS4? And will that experience last the same way a PS4 is? Because I think for the first couple of years on a PS4, the graphics do get better because they actually open up the CPU a lot more as the years go. Like I was reading the plan for the PS4, and they're opening it up every year. They open up a little bit more as they get better at coding and they get it closer to the raw metal. But the last 2 years, you start to see some games that really pull up and do push the graphics, kind of like Halo 4 did. It looked really well for a game that's right at the end of the generation. So I think the PC is going to go downhill a little bit quicker than the PS4 does, but I think the PS4 is going to last.
We're starting further up the hill, though. The Potato Masher is further up the hill.
Yeah, but the PC does have to start further up the hill. It does.
And now I will say, not a counter to that, but to go along with it, you're absolutely right. If you're not at least willing to be a little bit of an enthusiast, you would never be building this PC at all anyway. This is for people who want to have it as more of a hobby, the whole experience as a hobby, not just playing games. If all you want to do is just play games, wait for a Steam machine or buy a console, and there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying buy a console in a derogatory term, but PC gaming really is better suited for people who want to make more of a hobby out of the entire experience, and we don't deny that. But I'm not going to talk about most of the controversies that happened on Reddit from people, but I will address this one because literally hundreds of people said this, and it is 100% false. They said a variation of, you guys cheated, weren't totally objective, weren't honest, took shortcuts, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, with your parts list. No one else could get those parts. Not like we're so amazing, but like the average Joe, there's no way you could get those parts. People were like being very flippant, like, all right, build me a parts list right now. Like, build me a shopping cart I can check out that runs like that for that money. You can't do it. So in 3 minutes, just because I got pissed one night, I went on PC Part Picker and put together a list with a dual core that is on the Anantech CPU bench stuff, is the closest comparison in all performance to our i5-750. Even though it's only a dual core, each core is a lot faster because it's a lot newer. It's the Intel G3258, I think is the name. But I got one of those, a comparable motherboard, a cheap case with power supply. The one thing I cheaped out on is I had to pick a generic power supply because there wasn't one on sale. There was a great one at the moment. But the very next day, I saw this EVGA that we got on sale again. So if you waited like a day, you'd have it.
Oh, no, a whole day.
Memory dropped in price. So it had a 320 gig hard drive, 4 gigs of brand new memory, everything brand spanking new. With mouse and keyboard, it came out to $340 something. So the average Joe can go on PC Part Picker and have a shopping cart ready to go in 5 to 10 minutes easily. That is within 10% of the performance for within 10% of the money. So anyone can do this. Yes, Dave and I got good deals and stuff, because why do a challenge if you're not going to like try to do a good job? It wouldn't.
Yeah, exactly.
We'd be doing a disservice with your money and our time if we wanted to invest in this project for the next 4 or 5 years and we didn't try to get every last inch of performance out of it that we could, because that's what Sony and Microsoft were doing. I guarantee you, if they could get 10% more like clock speed out of one of their consoles and maintain stability, they would do it. Obviously, they want it to be as powerful as possible. So we didn't do anything that they didn't do. And we didn't do anything you couldn't do. And that's pretty much the entire point.
Yeah, I think you actually lead right into my only observation, which is kind of a branch out from this. And it's just, I was a little surprised by the results. Not a whole lot, but it definitely impressed me, especially with the 4K in Dark Souls, just because I figured stuff like memory bandwidth on that card just wouldn't be able to handle 4K. So it definitely impressed me. And it comes back to the PC. Sure, you can do these ridiculous low-end builds, but it is still an enthusiast platform, and with just a little bit more time and money, if we bump this build to $500, I mean, someone who's going to be buying a $400 console, just save up for a bit longer. You can use some
anyone who bought an Xbox One at launch.
You can very quickly get into some ridiculous quality games with just a bit more budget. So we've kind of set the bar, like, hey, here's what you can do. I don't think I would give this build to a lot of people as like, this is what you want. But man, if we can do this, imagine what you guys can do with just a bit more. And
we are excited about this. At least Dave and I are. James doesn't care.
I hear Joel's. You said that. I hear Joel's text tone.
That wasn't me.
That was me. That was me. That was my phone vibrating.
Oh, wait, it was
train going by.
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
Use the console user.
Wait, so Joel, what were you looking at in your lap then?
What am I looking at? Oh, I'm not looking at my lap. I was just.
You were.
What are you looking at?
You were though, Joel. That's the thing.
No, I was. Yeah. I've been actually working on Norman during this.
I think Debbie had a theory.
I hate you so much.
Why Debbie's thinking about that, I don't know.
I'm glad you're here, Joel. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad we're friends. I'm sorry we fight so much. I'm going to give you 2 hugs next time I'm in town.
Thanks for filling the 4th window.
James, thank you for being here at least for 75% of the podcast tonight, even if you kept getting up to leave.
Well, you know, the whole being a papa thing isn't just a look.
It's not just a look, it's a lifestyle. And for anyone who's really weirded out, James has actual kids. He's a good father. I've met them. They're cool. Well, I said being a papa isn't just a look. That's just weird enough.
They call me Big Papa.
Yeah. It's now time for the news.
News time.
Dave, is this first news item yours?
This is in fact mine. How many of you guys are familiar with the huge ARMA 3 mod that we have not played because we are too busy making and playing real ARMA missions?
How everyone should play
hardcore
them.
ARMA.
The way we play the sandbox game is superior.
This mod is basically why ARMA 3 remains so high on the Steam top sellers list. Like, what is it right now? I mean, a lot of people do what we did, where we started out playing an ARMA mod, an ARMA 2, DayZ, obviously, and people buy ARMA for stuff like ARMA Life, but then very quickly a lot of people do get into the more military stuff. Yeah, it's number, I believe, 12 right now on the Steam top sellers list at $60 full price. It's number 12. Altis Life is essentially an open world RPG. It uses the Altis map, which is absolutely huge. You can be a civilian, a bank robber, a shopkeeper, a cop.
So you could be a bank robber, a cop, or a bunch of other boring things.
If you want to get ahead in Altis Life, I've heard that shopkeeper is actually a pretty great way to earn some serious cash. Virtual cash.
Get it on the ground floor.
My eyes are sparkling just thinking about it.
Win in business, not on the streets.
Yeah, Altis Life is huge. Like, if you go to ARMA 3's streaming on Twitch, a lot of it's Altis Life. The developers, though, they aren't allowed to monetize it. Bohemia allows all kinds of stuff for modding. You can take assets from Operation Flashpoint, import them into ARMA 3, like pull stuff from Operation Arrowhead, do whatever you want with it, but you can't charge money for it. It's just a flat out rule. You can't use other people's work to make money, basically, because everything is built off of something in ARMA. All those mods, you're working off of a base. So the developers of Altis Life have actually launched a Kickstarter for an open world RPG of their own called Identity. It's basically the exact same concept as Altis Life. You pick a role, you can buy houses, furnish them, you pick a job. It's a big map, and you kind of just play Altis Life, but they get to charge you for it now.
If the Kickstarter is successful.
Yeah, it's gotten $30,000 out of a very low goal, in my opinion, $150,000 for an open world RPG. That's very obviously just a initial project goal. They're going to have to get funding from somewhere else if they want to meet even a fraction of what they want to do. But what they do have, it looks good. Their artwork, at least, is pretty awesome. They are using Unreal 4, it looks like. So I'm not sure how the large terrain is going to work. I think there will be some limitations there for the terrain size. It's not going to be Altis sized, but if nothing else, it does look really good. And so I'm actually intrigued. I don't think I'm going to back it at this point because I haven't actually played Altis Life yet. So I don't want to just dive in, but props to them for, taking a mod that they're enjoying and kind of branching out with it. We'll see how it goes.
Mm-hmm. I'm just glad they're using the Unreal Engine and not the real virtuality engine.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
So they have a possible chance of finishing the game.
And it might, and the Unreal Engine tends to run pretty well. So
it does. But like I said, though, what's going to hurt them is I don't think they're going to get anywhere close to the size of Altis.
Yeah, I watched the
They
Kickstarter
shouldn't.
and I hope the best for them, but I expect nothing will happen. Like, they're not going to get that money.
Joel hopes for the best, expects the worst.
Yeah.
We'll see.
I'm not even like a pessimism, whatever.
I'm not even a
You are a pessimism, Joel. You are a pessimism. But yeah, props to the artists for their assets, at least. Good stuff.
And now, Battlefield Hardline. What's going on with that?
I said this to Jeremiah a few days ago just because they're starting a week-to-week blog on the, road to the launch of the next Battlefield Hardline beta. There is going to be a second beta because the game has basically been totally revamped on the multiplayer front. But I'm just really liking, of course, it's a PR page, but I'm liking how they're phrasing things. They're definitely being open with a delay in Hardline, and how they're just discussing the delays and the development challenges reminds me a lot of what CD Projekt Red has been saying about Witcher 3, is that we want to deliver a product that works, a premium product that works. We want the game to be as good as it can be, and at least conceptually they've put their money where their mouth is. And I mean, what was the Hardline delay from October to March? That's a 5-month delay. They missed the Christmas season too. That's pretty intense. That's some dedication. I'll put the link here in chat for you guys. That wow, that's a super awkward link. That Twitter social link.
Bitly, Dave. Bitly.
I ain't got time for that.
No, it's actually interesting. Why doesn't Twitch automatically do that? Twitter does it.
Yeah.
TweetDeck does it. YouTube does it. Come on, Twitch, Amazon, get your act together. Use all those unsold Fire phones. Use them for link shorteners.
What they're basically announcing here in the blog is not only that they're wanting to be more open about the challenges in development and what's coming up, but every week they're going to have a blog post talking about here's a challenge that we delayed the game for and here's how we solved it. So we're going to see some behind the scenes stuff, hopefully, as we approach the second beta. Come on, Hardline, please be good. You have so much to make up for.
All right. We already did the Witcher 3 system requirements one. Joel is not even pretending like he's doing the time codes anymore. Guys, you're just not getting time codes.
I put the first time code for the Creatives ARMA at 1 hour and 16 minutes.
Or 1 minute 16, which is how you wrote it.
Oh, whoops, sorry, yeah. Whatever.
What do you mean, whatever? That's...
Joel, the filmmaker.
Look, man, if you want to get off and go work on Norman, just go do it. If you're going to stare away from the screen at your phone the entire time.
No, look. I'm dealing with composer stuff with Norman.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. I don't have a real life either. This is all I have going on right now is the podcast. This is all I have to live for. I don't have a family. I don't have a career.
No, I'm just saying when he's asking me questions, I have to answer now. He's on.
You know what you can do with that friendly dick? You know what you can do with that friendly dick?
I was going to say...
Was I going to add something in that segment earlier? Did you need me?
Do you know what that segment's called? You just called it that segment. Do you know what we're talking about?
Battlefield Hardline. I was actually listening. I was actually going to comment on it.
But then you didn't.
Comment.
Go ahead.
I was trying to finish an answer to my brother who is getting new mics for Norman to help us record some music.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Nice.
And is he in the store right now?
Does anyone want an Audio Technica 3500? It's the same mic Dave has. Anyone want one of those for cheap?
Can I have your USB cable? See, I had to Loctite mine to keep it from falling out constantly.
Dude, how much are USB cables?
Spend $3, Dave.
No, just James, wait for my 90 seconds and all will be revealed about Dave.
All will be revealed. Wait. Dave's calling his lawyer. Remember that retainer we talked about? Dave's grabbing his go bag. You know,
Battlefield I'm actually quite excited about Battlefield Hardline.
Did you say you're hard about it? I'm sorry.
Quit
being a dick about things.
Why are you so engaged right now, Joel?
We have his attention. His attention.
You could say he's standing at attention for this news item.
No, that was my joke.
I was lengthening it.
Okay.
There you go.
Nice.
I'm sorry, you guys. This has been a very technical podcast.
I'm sorry for anyone with good taste who's made it this far into the podcast. Not because of what Joel's saying, but because of what we're all saying.
Also for Joel.
All right, wild
I'm
card.
sorry. The people with good taste watch the podcast.
Okay.
Some of them.
The one question I had about this 11-week blog series, is it actually a blog per week for 11 weeks till it gets released? Or is it a full 11 weeks that they recorded kind of stuff to show what have they been doing in 11 weeks?
It's a new blog every week with a new topic on that challenge.
I kind of figured that. It's kind of what I guess Halo 4 did when they came out, 6 months before. It was a video and all that kind of stuff. But no, I'm excited. I'm glad they spent a lot of time on it. The single player actually looks like a lot of fun. Although I am a little scared about playing it because I played Battlefield 4 and I enjoyed the single player. When I'm not playing multiplayer with everyone else or doing something else, it's fun to have some game I can just jump in and play single player. But I lost a save file twice on a PS4 and my PC, and it just puts you all back at the start. So I was like, screw it, I'm not going to play. It wasn't that amazing to want to play through 2.5 hours to get back to where I was.
Right.
So when was the last time we had a... Sorry, go ahead, Joel.
Anyways, I just hope they don't have that same problem.
Oh, yeah. When was the last time we had a single player game about cops? To me, that's just an interesting take. You have non-lethal options and whatnot. I can't think of...
I mean, if Rainbow Six counts, kind of...
Yeah, okay. The SWAT games. Those games were so good.
Yeah.
The beanbags and the tasers and whatnot.
The ball pit.
Virtual Cop.
Is that a game?
Yeah.
Was that a game when you were a kid? Did you play it on the one-button controller?
I got a lot of use out of that one button.
Oh no! I've gone too far. I've gone too far.
I'll be right back.
He is Papa James. He
I'm
looks so
gonna pull
disappointed
Joel
in me.
here.
No! If he just left his video going, I wouldn't have to redo the overlay for this couple minutes of the podcast. I hate you. All right, James, go ahead.
Nah, nothing. That was it.
Okay, thanks.
Can you sing us a song, James?
Nah, I'm still working to get my voice back.
Okay, so I was hoping Dave was going to be here for this news item, but since he isn't, Joel and James, what do you think is the best-selling game of all time? All time.
Isn't it? I think it's Tetris.
No, that's like a game series. Like, what is the one game?
World
Tetris,
of Warcraft?
there's a billion different Tetrises. Nope.
Oh, it's sorry, Wii Sports.
Wii Sports. Wii Sports has sold, how many are we up to now? Blah, blah. I'm skimming. It's something like 82 million, 82.5 million sales of Wii Sports.
I don't really count that though, just because it came
Well, hold
with
on.
Wii.
Let me do my news story. Story, Joel. Okay. So, but yeah, that was bundled in with the Wii. And then I guess probably some people bought that on its own.
Actually, Joel's right, kind of.
No.
If we don't count consoles.
He is right, but I'm going somewhere with this, guys. Let me build a story.
Where are you going?
Let me tell you a story.
I'm traveling with you. I'm riding back seat. I'm just watching, just
All
chilling,
right.
playing on my Game Boy.
Yeah, you're backseat driving, that's for sure. So, what do you think is the next best-selling game of all time?
I thought it was a Mario game.
Super Mario Brothers has sold 40 point something million, but that was bundled in with the NES. The next best-selling game is 50 something million is Minecraft with
Man.
I can't find the exact number. I had it in front of me. But Minecraft is somewhere in the 50 millions. Dave, we're talking about the best-selling games of all time, just to catch you up.
Gotcha.
Wii Sports has sold 82.5 million copies, but most of those were bundled in with Wii's. Super Mario Brothers sold 40-something million copies, but that was bundled in with NES. Minecraft has sold somewhere in the 50 million, but Minecraft is available on phones, on tablets, on every console that's pretty much ever been made in the last 6 years. Minecraft is available on everything. So ignoring games that are available on non-traditional gaming platforms, ignoring games that are bundled in with the consoles, what do you think is the best-selling game of all time that's you had to buy it? People might bundle it in at some point, but it didn't come standard as a bundle. There were no special deals on it. You just had to go out and buy it. What do you think is the best-selling game of all time? And this is not a trick question. It's not World of Warcraft, James.
Could we get a hint for PC or console? I'm guessing console.
It's a console and PC game.
It is? Man.
Yeah, but we'll see if I give you a hint. It's going to give it away. But of course, I
don't Minecraft.
I don't need to drag this out too long. It's not on the PC yet.
It's not on the PC yet?
Yes, but it is a PC game, but it's not out on the PC yet. Come on, man. It's right in front of you.
But it's on console right now.
Yes. Don't think of the obvious. What's the obvious one?
GTA?
Yep. Grand Theft Auto 5.
Really?
Yep. Is up to 43.5 million units sold on the Xbox 360, PlayStation 3, PlayStation 4, and Xbox One, not including the PC sales, which haven't come out yet. It is the number one selling game of all time that is not bundled in with the platform or available on things like phones and tablets where people buy it for $2 and never play it. So that's pretty impressive considering it's been out just over a year.
Jeez.
So many launches for that game that like the hype train just keeps coming and coming for GTA 5.
It's going to be one of the best-selling games in 2013, 2014.
Can't wait till it comes out on mobile.
That's true. The iPad version when it comes out in 2020. All right. It is now time for 90 Seconds with Joel, a part of the podcast where Joel talks about whatever he wants for as long as he wants. So, Joel, take it away.
Okay, well, my story, I need permission first. Dave, can we tell the story about today? About getting coffee?
I already told the wife this one, so you may continue to share it.
Oh, boy.
I think, honestly,
Hubba hubba.
you will tell it better, but like it took me a second to kind of get it, and I was like, oh wait, and then I just laughed. I couldn't stop laughing. I was paying for my drink as I'm laughing, and the guy's like, "Would you like our seat?" And I'm like, no. It was okay. So we're going to grab a coffee where we were, not. And Dave's right behind me, and I start hearing them laughing. And I was like, "What's going on?" And Picor's like, "I just heard Dave say, but I'm gonna have to break $1." The coffee was like $4.25 or $4.50 or something like that.
Okay, here, Joel, you need to have this set up. Okay, so our pipes froze last night, so this morning I had no coffee.
We know how cheap you are.
I had a crappy morning.
Wait, backstory. If Dave doesn't have coffee, Dave doesn't have life as far as everything else is concerned.
I got to work. Picor was already there. I'm like, Picor, have you had coffee yet? He's like, yeah. I'm like, you want to go with me to get coffee? And he's like, yeah.
Yeah, they came over to me and they were just kind of like, we're going right now. I was like, all right.
We're standing in line.
Come with us if you want to caffeinate.
I was going through the cash in my wallet. I had like some dollars and stuff from Christmas, gift cards and whatnot. Well, like the cards and stuff that you get. And we're standing in line looking at the stupid, ridiculous coffee prices. I always make my own coffee because I hate buying coffee out. It's just like I can buy lunch for the price of a cup of coffee. But I'm looking at my wallet. I had all these ones, and the coffee was this weird price, like $3.50 or $4.50 or something like that. I was like, oh man, I'm gonna have to break a $1. And then I look up, and Picor is just like staring at me like this. I'm like, man, did I say that out loud? And then Picor just lost it. What I was really meaning was not like, oh no, I have to break a $1. It's that I hate carrying change around. It just didn't sound right.
Dave, I would love for you to just speak your thoughts all day for one day.
Speak my thoughts.
Just speak your thoughts out, no matter what they are. Just all day.
I would love to hear that.
It's a lot of stuff like that, actually.
It'd probably be a lot of swearing, too.
Man,
it's got a lot of repressed swearing.
Yeah.
Gas is $2 a gallon? Ah.
You son of a...
This place isn't open carry.
Yeah.
Oh, no. Don't get me started on the last time I was in town. The lunch trip.
I was there.
Dave,
I was there.
I'm not picking on Dave, but just being stuck in the middle of like the bunch of herding the cats of everyone else. It's like, I want to go here. 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 And Dave going, no guns. No guns.
I said no to 2 places. And it turned out I was blaming
Joel's
Joel.
like, there's this really cool curb that has awesome moss. Let's go eat there. Dave's like, you can't carry guns there. Joel's like, let's crawl underneath the taco truck and lick the grease out from under it. That's super amazing. And everyone else is like, let's go there. And Dave's like, I can't take my gun there.
I just love how Joel got blamed as the messenger, but it was actually John the whole time fighting for that one stupid pizza place.
I think it's a really good pizza place.
Yeah, it's a really good pizza place.
It's good, but it's not the best I've ever had.
Not good enough to give up freedom.
It's not better than New York style pizza in New York.
All right, and so that wraps down this 90 seconds with Joel before this fight starts again.
Wait, I want to read the comment.
No, wraps down 90 seconds. The podcast is over.
Sorry. Whoops, sorry.
If you were doing time code, you would know. Because he's starting to type right now.
I love that look he gives us. All right, it's now time for the comment of the week, where Dave collects them and Joel reads them. Now, we're going to do a special casual conversation where we read through the dumbest, maybe 10% of the comments we got on Reddit, because some of them on the Potato Masher videos, there were some, I think Dave's exact quote was, some of these people were dropped on their heads as children. There are some people where like the amount of stupidity in their questions and comments was mind-blowing. Like, they know English, they can type, they have a computer, and that's basically it. Like, I guarantee you both legs are in one pants leg, like, while they're typing this. All right, so anyway, it's time for comment of the week. Dave, take it away.
So this comment of the week comes from a very old Total War episode, like 2 years old now. And I'm going to have Joel get into character and read it for me as usual. Now, Joel, can you try and read those spelling and grammar errors as he wrote them?
Wait, what's his motivation?
I retyped it. I
retyped motivation.
So I could
Who is he? What's his character?
No,
it's a Total War episode, so it's a homeschooler who has learned most of his history
does not
from
talk
VHS
like a
tapes. Oh, he doesn't? Okay.
Oh,
no.
I don't know. It could be. Okay, I got a video.
Like, I'm homeschooled and I know how I talk, so it's
like, I'm real dirty.
I got a video from this poor little kid.
Joel
had a little parrot on his shoulder. No joke. He looked like he was in a Harry Potter cupboard, right, where his little computer is, and he had a little parrot on his shoulder. The kid had to have been like maybe 9 or 10. That's it, right? And he just looks at the camera and he's like, I was doing a stupid review about a MacBook and saying how I didn't like it and that it was a white MacBook and I wanted to have white headphones and it had black headphones and didn't match. Well, the kid's like, he looks in the camera and he's got this little parrot on his shoulder. It's like they're both judging me. And it's like, if I had a MacBook, I would really appreciate it. That's all I've ever wanted is a MacBook. I don't have anything. And he just like stares for the longest time and then just goes like this and gives the finger to the little kid. And I'm like, and then like you could hear his mother or someone in the background kind of like calling for him. Like, I don't know what his name is, but it sounded like someone's calling for him. Like, he hid in that little closet. He's going to go back and be like, yes, Mom, I'm a little homeschooler. I totally didn't say the video.
Joel, you got a video YouTube
so what
comment.
point did he admit that he was homeschooled?
He just, like, the way he wrote back message and forth, he just really sounded like it. Like, he was just really beggy, but just the whole situation reminded me of, like, yeah.
Of your own experience.
Being stuck in the...
So comment what just happened?
Ears. What was that?
What just happened? Aren't you stone cold badass? What's going on?
What was that?
Look. I forgot I put Dean over there, so because I moved him out of the shot.
Anyone who's an audio version, Dean Winchester has made another appearance. Joel looked to the side, looked to the side, saw Dean, and freaked out.
Well, you try putting a cardboard cutout in your house.
I won't, because I'm not a weirdo.
I'm doing it for Norman purposes, because I'm making a Norman cutout.
Does it have to be behind you the whole time?
Well, I put it...
I'm cuddling with it for Norman purposes.
It's in my bed for Norman purposes.
I'm almost done, Dean. I'm almost done. Help me get through it.
All right, so comment of the week. Come on, Joel. Joel,
yeah.
The podcast is almost done. Come on.
I'm so hungry. I haven't had dinner
God.
yet. It's all your fault, Joel.
That's your fault for not eating dinner till 10 p.m., Dave.
All right.
Yeah, drink your sparkling water.
Here, what are you drinking?
Well,
Pure
on the Spanish
garbage.
side is agua con gas. Con gas.
Gas.
That's what it is.
Water and gas.
On the English side, it's sparkling water.
So it probably means water with bubbles.
So it's strawberry dragon fruit, but in Spanish it's fresa. I don't know how to... Why? It's just why fruta del dragon.
How many times am I going to intro comment of the week? What is going? It's like a conspiracy. Joel's just decided it's like, no, what's it called? He's got the floor. He has the floor on the Senate. He's just going to stonewall me.
Okay. All right. I'm doing it.
All right.
You have your character, Joel? Do you have your character for the Total War comment?
You effing dumbass. Why would you trade one of your best rest-soothing stations away to the Brits who are just going to use it against you?
That's how you say it if you spell it like crap.
I think it should have been angrier, but I appreciate the effort. There was a lot more swearing. I think it needs to be angrier.
Well, see, if you want swearing, I need to go full out. But you know,
Don't worry,
be
Joel.
crass.
Joel, when we get, I want you in on the casual conversation where we read the Reddit comments, because like you can be as angry as you want, because some of these people were. But yeah, it's going to be good. So if you're a Patreon subscriber, look out for that Patreon perk coming soon, or Patreon supporter. But anyway, that's the end of the podcast, guys. If you want to support us on Patreon and support more cool projects like the Potato Masher, or if you want to get videos where we read off a bunch of profane Reddit comments, you can go to patreon.com/casualshenanigansgaming. You can follow us online at casualshenaniga, at Germ Gaming, at Evil Viking. You can find us on YouTube. You can subscribe to us in iTunes. You can rate us in iTunes. You can write into the show at casualshenanigans@gmail.com with your mail and comments, and we will read them on air if we feel like it. There weren't any this week, but keep sending them in. That's why we didn't read any, so in case anyone's thinking we just skipped that section, we did not. But thank you to everyone for coming out. James, thank you for telling us how much you didn't care and for being condescending all evening. I appreciate it. Joel, thank you for not
Just
paying
returning
attention.
the favor.
Oh. I pay attention to you. We're friends. I thought.
Betrayal.
Joel, thank you for pretending to come out and work on Norman with us. I really appreciate that. Dave, thank you for being a valued member of the podcast. Iceman, to answer your question.
I just nodded a lot.
We're not streaming any games after this because we are practicing for a special ARMA mission that is coming very soon, guys. It may be played publicly, but it's definitely going to be played privately and recorded, and it's going to be really awesome. You guys are not going to want to miss that when it hits our YouTube channels.
I've spent roughly 80 hours, if not more, on this mission since early December.
Nice. Fantastic.
I don't know if sure, nice.
And you still put out videos, so kudos to you. Shame on me. But that's the podcast, guys. Thank you, everyone, for coming out. And we will see you all later. And with that, everyone, let me switch back over to my other monitor, and I keep forgetting, you should stay casual.